What if I told you that the most powerful object in the known universe looks like a wrinkled walnut? And that those wrinkles, those weird, squiggly folds you've seen in science textbooks, are the entire reason you can read these words right now, remember your childhood, and dream about the future? Welcome to Tiny But Wise, where we take the small things you ignore every day and reveal the big truths hiding inside them. Today, we're cracking open the human brain. Not literally, but trust me, what's inside is going to change how you see yourself forever. Before we go any further, I want you to think about something personal. Have you ever wondered why you can remember the smell of your grandmother's kitchen, but forget where you put your keys 5 minutes ago? Or why humans can write symphonies and build skyscrapers, but a dolphin or a crow can't? And here's the one that should really get under your skin. What if the secret to human intelligence isn't about how big our brains are, but about how messy they look? Because here's the truth. The wrinkles in your brain aren't a flaw. They aren't some biological accident. They are the most elegant engineering solution nature ever came up with. And once you understand why, you'll never look at a brain the same way again. Let's start with a basic picture. Close your eyes for a second and imagine your brain. You're probably picturing something grayish, squishy, and covered in those twisting, turning folds and ridges. Scientists call those folds gyri, and the grooves between them sulci. But for today, let's just call them what they look like, wrinkles. Deep, wild, beautiful wrinkles. Now here's the first thing that should blow your mind. Your brain's outer layer, the part responsible for thinking, feeling, remembering, and making decisions, is called the cerebral cortex. And if you could peel it off your brain and lay it completely flat, it would cover roughly 2.5 square feet. That's about the size of a large pizza box, maybe bigger. But right now, that entire sheet is crammed inside your skull, a space roughly the size of a small cantaloupe. How does nature solve that problem? It folds, and folds, and folds again. The wrinkles aren't random. They are nature's origami. Think about it like this. Imagine you have a massive paper map, the kind that covers an entire table. Now imagine you need to fit that map into your jacket pocket. What do? You fold it. You crumple it. You make it small enough to carry without losing any of the information printed on it. That's exactly what your brain does. The folding allows an enormous amount of surface area, packed with billions of neurons, to fit inside a compact, portable skull. Genius, right? Literally. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The amount of folding in a brain isn't the same across all animals. A rat's brain, smooth, almost completely smooth. A cat's brain has a few light folds. A chimpanzee's brain has more. But the human brain, it's folded so intensely, so intricately, that it looks like it's been crumpled up by a frustrated artist. And that level of folding directly corresponds to intelligence, to memory capacity, to emotional complexity. The more folded the brain, the more cortical surface area it has. And more surface area means more neurons. And more neurons means more processing power, more thinking, more feeling, more being human. Now here's the curiosity loop I promised you earlier. If folding equals intelligence, what happens when a brain doesn't fold correctly? This is a real condition called lissencephaly, which literally means smooth brain. Babies born with this condition have brains with very few folds or none at all. And tragically, the consequences are severe. Developmental delays, difficulty with movement, challenges with cognitive function. Not because the brain is too small, but because without those folds, there simply isn't enough surface area for the neurons to do their work. The wrinkles aren't decoration. They are function. Without them, everything suffers. Let's take this even deeper. Because here's something that scientists didn't fully understand until recently. The brain doesn't come out of the womb already wrinkled. A baby's brain starts out relatively smooth. The folding happens during development, mostly during the last trimester of pregnancy and into early childhood. And the way it folds isn't random. It follows specific patterns driven by genetics, by the mechanical forces of a rapidly growing brain pressing against itself, and by the electrical activity of neurons firing and connecting. In other words, the wrinkles form because the brain is literally growing so fast and so powerfully that it has no choice but to fold in on itself. Like bread dough rising in a pan that's too small. Life finding a way. And now, here comes the twist. The one that should make you stop and stare at the ceiling for a moment. We've spent centuries assuming that the human brain is special because of its size. Bigger brain, smarter animal. That was the logic. That's what we taught in schools. That's what showed up in science documentaries for decades. But that turns out to be only part of the story. Sperm whales have brains 5 times larger than humans. Elephants have brains 3 times bigger. And while these animals are undeniably intelligent, they aren't writing novels or launching rockets. So size alone can't be the answer. The real secret, the thing that separates human cognition from almost every other creature on the planet, is the ratio of folding relative to brain size. Humans have an extraordinarily high degree of folding for our brain size. We've essentially maximized the surface area to volume ratio in a way that no other species has matched. We didn't just grow a big brain. We turbocharged the one we had by folding it until it became something entirely new. That is the climax of this whole story. The wrinkles in your brain aren't a sign of complexity for complexity's sake. They are the physical proof that evolution found the most efficient possible solution to the problem of intelligence. More power, less space, maximum output. It's the same principle behind microchips getting smaller while becoming more powerful. Nature figured out miniaturized high-density processing millions of years before Silicon Valley did. And think about what that means for you personally. Every memory you've ever made, every joke you've laughed at, every time you felt love or grief or wonder, all of it lives in those folds. Your entire inner world is stored in something that fits inside your skull and weighs about 3 pounds. The conversations you have in your head, the dreams that feel more real than waking life, the moment song gives you chills, all of that is happening in the wrinkles of a folded sheet of tissue no thicker than a few millimeters. Somehow, that makes it feel even more miraculous. So the next time you see an image of a brain, in a textbook, in a museum, on a screen, don't see something ugly or alien. See a map. A deeply folded, impossibly intricate map of everything a human being can think, feel, create, and become. See the wrinkles not as flaws, but as features. The most important features in the history of life on Earth. Because without those wrinkles, there would be no science, no art, no music, no love, no language, no you. The most wrinkled thing in nature is also the most powerful thing in nature. And you carry it with you everywhere you go. Makes you wonder, what else are we dismissing as flawed? That's actually perfect. If you found this video valuable and learned something new, do us a favor, like subscribe to Tiny But Wise and share it with your loved ones. Now your turn. Drop a comment with the next topic. We read every comment, and the best suggestion gets a shout out. See you there.